Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back. 0 Hour. Tim Lloyd, Jeff Hobbs, and we're one down and two to go, Jeff. We are in the midst of 3 shows, 3 weeks, 3 cities, and Aries 19 is now in the books. This is your recap show, folks. Of course, brought to you by Smoky Mountain CBD. Check them out, SmokyMountainCBD.com, for all of your favorite treats. They've got the of course, regular CBD, Delta 8, Delta 9, THC, edible form, or vapes, all kinds of goodies there. And they always hook us up with some real nice swag bags for our VIP. So shout out to Smoky Mountain CBD. Jeff, Aries 19, it's in the books. As we just mentioned, went down to Chattanooga this past Saturday night, downtown, the Chattanooga Convention Center, our new home in Chattanooga. And man, it was quite a night. Great crowd, incredible fights. We had so many close fights. I don't know if we've had that many split decisions on a card in a while. Yeah, we'll get into it, man. This is probably going to be an abbreviated recap show, folks, as compared to the usual. As yeah, we'll be right back to you here tomorrow with yet another preview show for the big underground National Underground show coming up this Friday night. We'll be joined by our guy Cody Saftik for that one, so always looking forward to it. Jeff, for I guess just a brief overview of your take of the event, and then let's get into these results.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me is once again just Chattanooga delivered. The Chattanooga fighters, the what you would call, I guess, the B side, which is nothing more than your travelers, your out of towners, delivering again as well when it comes to support, attendance, ticket sales. This is two home runs in a row in Chattanooga, and it is all to do with those fighters that are on the card, their followings, their fan base, and their participation in really pushing the event. It's been phenomenal to be able to just go back to back. Sometimes you have your ebbs and flows, your ups and your downs, your good shows, your low shows. Chattanooga has been a high show, two straight visits, and it's been awesome. But like you said, good matchmaking. If you're going to toot your own horn for a second, with split decisions, close fights, exciting fights, such amazing crowd participation. Couldn't ask for anything else, my man. So, that being said, like you said, we got to do this quick today because we're doing about 3 shows in the next, 24 hours.
Yeah.
2 recordings. We got so much going on. So don't want to waste any more time. We'll hop right to it. Our prelims started out the evening with 5 matches. We had two kids matches, one being a submission, a grappling match, the other being an actual youth MMA match. Third fight of the evening was a combat jiu-jitsu. Then we switched over to Muay Thai, and then we had our first amateur MMA bout of the evening. So looking down the sheet here, first we had Angel Morales defeating Soren Heinzen by Kimura at 30 seconds into the bout. That was your straight grappling match. Next, you had your modified youth MMA match. We had Ryder Wilson defeating Jay Gooden by armbar at 32 seconds of round number 1. Your third bout of the evening was our combat jiu-jitsu bout with some big boys in there. We had Ben Luttrell, who defeated Josh Maynard by guillotine at 4 minutes and 47 seconds of that 10-minute round. Then we moved over to our Muay Thai kickboxing, and that was Broderick Kelsey right there from Chattanooga taking on Demarie Ray. And Demarie Ray with a third round knockout, pretty impressive knockout. It was your classic face plant knockout. So Demarie Ray was successful in that match. And then our first split decision of the night was also our first amateur MMA fight, and that was Austin Sparks defeating Christian Lee. So Tim, for me, uh, I hate to say one thing stood out because there's really something that stood out about each, but I'll go through the first two together, and that was your two youth matches. Uh, and for me, it's just we knew Soren and Jay were good. We knew they were going to be, really well trained and, probably above average youth when it comes to their skill level. Uh, so that being said, watching Angel Morales and Ryder Wilson finish these matches, in 30 seconds and 32 seconds, wow, as good as their opponents were, to see them come out successful that early and look that impressive just kind of shows you um, how light years ahead of probably most their age are right now. And it's incredible to think, what the future can hold for those two kids, man. And the other thing that stood out about those kids was uh, they're not shy. They act the part. They stand on the stage and pump up the crowd. They mean mug. They are full on submerged in this lifestyle, and it was impressive to see. Ben Luttrell and Josh Maynard was entertaining. For me, just because again, I love the part when you do combat jujitsu when the crowd doesn't realize it's combat jujitsu
Mm.
till that first open palm smack lands, and then you hear that collective "oh." They kind of forget or they don't realize until that first one happens, and then they start getting all lathered up, and into it. But it's pretty impressive of Ben Latrobe because we know that Josh Maynard is such a skilled grappler, and as I said before, Demarie Ray. This was a really good classic tie fight for me. It's so beautiful to watch. I love it when the MMA guys go in there and they try to stay busy and things like that. But there's just something beautiful about two good traditionally trained Thai guys who that's their discipline and that's what they love getting in there and competing. And like I said, it was an impressive knockout. And then, like I said, the split decisions started rolling in about this time, and Christian Lee with what had to have been his best performance um, that we've seen him in.
Yeah, even
Really,
in the loss, right?
yeah, yeah. Even in loss, it was a great performance from him. He stepped up to the plate once again, uh, and was impressed because Christian is one of those kids that he works hard when he's in there. It just doesn't work out for him, but he really had a lot of success in this one. And but Austin Sparks too. He took some shots, man. His face was all lumped up and bruised up, black eyes. And he was tough as hell too, sticking in there and taking some good shots as well. So, he took some, but he gave some. And like I said, at the end of the day, the judges had it lean just slightly for Austin Sparks. So that was my kind of quick take and rundown of those first fights. What about you, man?
Well, we ran the gamut of possible finishing methods here in subs, knockouts, decisions. It was a really good opening. We had a hot crowd early. I remember looking around. We were just starting. Like, there's quite a few people here for they're just for us not really to have any actual big fights super early. So that was cool. Both the kids from Rowan, kind of a microcosm of their the way they roll just in general. These kids came out for their first competition and jumped right into the deep end with a couple of little agogi killers that just so skilled, so tough. And Ryder, jumping in there with a Ryder Wilson who's got a good amount of youth MMA experience already. That says a lot about Jay Gooden. Ryder, just really kind of did what he's been doing, man. He's a guy that I think that there's some yearning, I think, for him to be on that Team USA to go over for the Worlds in Greece, because I mean, I'd be hard pressed to find a kid of his size and age that's going to be too much better than that one. So very very impressive there. Of course, I thought that the knockout for Damari Ray was probably the most impressive thing I saw in the prelims. It was on the button, man. It was just a nice overhand right, and he just landed flush. It was it was obvious that that fight was over when he hit that, just because the look on Broderick's face. So referee Josh Amado waved that off without a count. That was a good call, especially watching it from my vantage point, which was, I was head on with that one. So really good stoppage there. And what I thought was honestly Broderick's best round, that third round, he was actually looking really good. He was winning that round, and in a really tight fight. So congrats to Damari, and I think that there's some, you and I already kind of spotting some nice matchups for him down the road. I think he was very talented, and I rewatched the Christian Lee fight again with Sparks in person. I thought that they got that one wrong. I thought that that went Christian Lee's way. Watching it back, I still feel that way, but it was close. It was super close. I don't think anybody got robbed. I think it was one of those fights where, the age old question: what are you looking for? Are you looking for activity and damage? You're looking for control, position, things like that. So very, very good close fight that you don't typically get in your earlier MMA fights on the card. So I thought that was a lot of fun. Gave us momentum going to the undercard.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's switch it up now, Tim. If you give me the rundown on the
Yeah,
undercard, and we'll flip flop it here.
yeah, you got it. So the undercard, we had 5 MMA bouts here on the undercard. We're all MMA from here on out. These are our non-title fights. At 150-pound catchweight, Dustin Garrett improved his record to 5-6 with one no contest with a second round TKO over Landon Reed. It was an injury stoppage, a really really good first round. 19 seconds into round number two, though, Landon Reed, I guess he rolled his ankle in there, and he wasn't able to continue. So Dustin Garrett comes back after a pretty good layoff from surgery himself, and gets a win. Then we had two straight split decisions. It was a Kutu out of National MMA, moving to 4-1 with a split decision win over Rowan Wrestling Academy's Noah Basinger, 29-28 two times, 28-29 one time. And that was super close too. I mean, it was watching it there that night, I thought that Kutu, I thought they got it right. I thought Kutu definitely won. Watching it in replay, I'm on the fence. I'm not, again, no, I don't think anybody got robbed. It was too close to say anyone got robbed. But that third, I think it was fairly safe to say it was 1-1 going to the third round, and neither guy really, I don't, there weren't many punches thrown. Like I think you could probably count the strikes on one hand, how many strikes were thrown in that third round. So it was really just almost like a grappling bout with changes in positions, submission attempts. It's kind of one of those things where you, like we just talked about, are you giving credit to the guy that is on top and has top position, or the guy that's on bottom that's going for a submission um, that isn't successful? So I don't have a problem with that one. I think that I would have even been okay after watching it back, though, if they gave that one to Basinger. So that's just riding the fence about as much as I can. Austin Higdon with a split decision win of his own over Rowan Wrestling Academy's Luke Baker, who took that final less than 24 hours notice. First off, shout out to Luke Baker for jumping in and fighting, man, on very short notice to save a fight with Austin Higdon. Split decision, 29-28 two times, 28-29 one time. I thought they got that one right. Another one that was very close, going to that third round, and Higdon was just barely edged that one out. Up next, Austin Sauls with a round two TKO at 35 seconds over Lawrenceburg Combat's Logan Metters. Austin Sauls out of Rowan Wrestling Academy. They had several people in a row here. Austin moves to 2-2 and looked really good here, man. I thought that he looked, I mean, very, very big aggression. He was really going for it, and had a bit of a mean streak in there as he gets the win over Logan Metters. And we'll see if that rivalry with Lawrenceburg Combat and Rowan Wrestling Academy continues to grow. Rounding out the undercard, Kate Sandmeyer, also Rowan Wrestling Academy, with a win over Melissa Buckner. 3 minutes exactly is what they'll time this one as at the end of round one. Melissa Buckner not able to answer the bell. She was having some issues, breathing. So a little bit of a scare there for a moment. Luckily, she was okay. But at 3 minutes exactly, because they didn't start the next round, it would be called I guess a TKO stoppage because she was not able to answer the bell. Kate Sandmeyer moves to 1-0. And some interesting fights potentially on the horizon for her, I think, as well, in that female bantamweight division. So I kind of was giving my thoughts on these fights as I ran them down. Jeff, what's
Sure.
your take?
Yeah, a lot of the same. I hated to see Landon Reed. He looked so much better this time around than his debut, and he looked way more comfortable going into this second fight. Had a really good first round and was looking good. And of course, Dustin Garrett. Hats off to this guy. He's another one that took a short notice fight. Relatively for this, and it was just fast and furious, and it was exciting. And then for it to end the way it did, it was just so bizarre because it wasn't like he got his foot caught in between the canvas and the cage, or even after the show when we took the cage apart, we kind of rolled up the canvas and looked. Was there any kind of? We didn't really see any, divots or holes in the padding. It was just it looked to me just like an odd step. So I hated how that one turned out. For me, Kutu Noah Basinger fight of the night. If it was if there was an award that needed to be given, it was for that fight. It was so entertaining, back and forth. From the moment it started, it was fireworks because, whether you like it or not, or I don't know how you might feel about it, but there was kind of that, hey, let's tap hands, hand raised, followed by, an immediate punch thrown. So, Basinger let it he set the tone right there that it was going to be entertaining. And then Kutu again with his flying jump because he's so short. His jump Superman punch, getting in there, and it was definitely a back and forth affair. Um, and this is why you have three judges, because and that's why they're set at different parts of the cage to get different angles. I was torn waiting for the decision because I did not feel comfortable that I could call who won the fight, um, or even better yet, I couldn't decide how I think those judges, scored the fight. So I had no clue, what the announcer was going to announce. But like you, I wouldn't have been upset either way. Um, I third round was again one of those odd ones because again, Basinger I think got the takedown early and stayed in top position for a while, and I didn't even see the attempt at the guillotine from Kutu on the bottom until he was up or it was over. They had transitioned. I thought it was just a straight takedown and holding position. I didn't even notice his arm was under his chin working on something, and so I'm sure a judge on the same side of the cage as I was couldn't have seen it. Probably didn't see it either. um, but action-packed fight. Cal Mays, kudos to him too. He's gotten some really cool clips together of that fight that just shows how back and forth that one was. But Kutu now in a position with his record, depending on he came back after a long layoff. How active he wants to stay. Um, with his record now, I believe what at 4-1, some interesting things could be on the horizon for him. Should he be looking for uh, bigger challenges? Austin Higdon, Luke Baker, fan favorite fight here. Everyone knew the story on how Luke Baker, or they had learned at the last minute the story of how Luke Baker got into this match and how he got into this fight. Odds were definitely stacked against him, and kind of the same for Austin Higdon. Again, it was a short notice opponent for him too. He had to rethink his whole mindset on who am I even fighting? What's going on here? I know nothing about this guy, and they put on a slugfest. Luke Baker actually ended up winning the Tennessee Army National
Mm-hmm.
Guard Toughest Hickory Award, who ironically was given to him by Austin Higdon as a former winner of it.
Mm-hmm.
Austin wanted to jump in there and make sure he handed that man that Toughest Hickory Award because if there was anybody in that place that knew how tough Luke Baker was, it was Austin Higdon at that point. So kudos to Luke Baker and congratulations on winning that reward and getting that recognition.
Yeah.
And what do you say? Austin Higdon has had two back-to-back Chattanooga wins in exciting, fights. So couldn't be happier for any happier for that guy. Austin Saws Logan Metters. No, Tim, I don't think there's any question. I don't think we have to question. That rivalry is not over. It is not dead. In fact, it's probably worse now than it was before as far as the intensity. Austin Saws, we make fun of. you know how they do different uh, versions of fighters and say, well, it's uh, long hair George St. Pierre or short hair St. Pierre,
Right.
or it's motivated so and so. But boy, Austin Sauls should have one too, because a motivated Austin Sauls is scary. The
Hmm.
purpose and the intent that he comes out with when there's something like this rivalry behind it is so much different than just a basic matchup, a basic fight. With no, I don't want to say he doesn't have passion in other fights, but it's just without that edge, he's a different fighter. And the times he has slipped up have been in those matches, not the one where there's heat. When
Yeah.
there's heat and there's a storyline behind it and there's some emotion and maybe some personal feelings in there,
The Wolfman comes up.
yeah, because that's where we got that fastest knockout before it was taken away from him. But
Hmm.
those are the fights where he's got something to prove. And his celebration at the end of the match um, lit the match, if you will, for the rest of the Lawrenceburg contingency in the crowd that was there. And this is I had to step away from the table and go and tend to the locker room raid, if you will, of quite a few people from the crowd looking for Austin Sauls. Um, and yeah, we had to do some clearing out at that point because it got a little feisty. So I don't think it's over, but that being said, I mean it was a good. Logan Metters is tough as nails too, man, and this was a good match. It's just Austin Sauls on this night was not going to be denied. um, Steinmeier Buckner was really excited about this match. Really, really was. It was one of my, asterisk matches on the card that I was like, I really can't wait for this one. One, because we know Melissa Buckner is tough as hell. We've seen her in some wars, whether it be a jiu-jitsu or an amateur MMA fight. And then it was the unknown of Kate Sandmeyer, but, what we had heard from the Rowan guys about her and kind of how they had built her up, it made the anticipation really high for
Hmm.
watching her in the cage. And so I was really disappointed in just the fact that we didn't get to see more of it. We didn't get the pleasure of enjoying more of it. But that being said, I mean, uh, how do you be upset with someone who's having issues at the time?
Yeah. Right.
Melissa was, after she got back to at the end of the first round, while it looked like she was in a position of control, kind of a top position and almost like the schoolboy headlock kind of thing, but was getting rolled a little bit. But she got herself, Kate had gotten her in just the perfect position to where she could still reach around a punch and was wearing her out at the end of the first round. And, when she went back to her corner, used every bit of that 60 seconds up. And then when it was time to get up, I guess she was having a hard time breathing, catching her air. A lot of the adrenaline was still pumping and, was unfortunately unable to answer the bell. So uh, it, it's kind of a downer way to end what was an exciting fight so far, but it's, completely understandable. If someone's having medical issues, they're having medical issues, and we definitely wouldn't have wanted her to go out there continuing on like that. So, maybe we'll see this again sometime. Maybe, I hope Melissa is better. But like you said, immediately Sunday on the ride home, from Chattanooga to Nashville, you and I were on the phone already talking about some really cool matchups uh, that we could put together with the Big Cat. All right, Tim. Now that gets us to the main card. It was four fights, four titles on the line. First bout of the main card was the first ever light heavyweight Tennessee Gamma Championship. And that one saw Finn Martin from Nashville MMA take on Luke Wilson from Agogi Combative. So once again, an Agogi versus Nashville MMA showdown. This one a little different than most, though. This was a classy call out, if you will. Luke Wilson, after our last Chattanooga show, let it be known that, hey, I like this Finn Martin kid. I respect him, and he's tough. And I'm only doing one more of these fights, and I would like it to be against him. And real respectful respectful call out. And so this one didn't have the heat on it as most of those gym against gym matchups have we've seen in the past. But it was Finn Martin defeating Luke Wilson by armbar, round one at 2 minutes and 37 seconds. I could tell when this one started, Tim. It looked like Finn was wanting to maybe stand for just for a little bit there.
Mhm.
Uh, we know Luke comes out swinging hard, and when that happens, you've got the possibility of overextending yourself and closing that gap earlier if you don't connect. And it's just one of those instinctive things for Finn Martin. He's a wrestler. He's got good jujitsu. So I think, once someone's body gets that close to him, it's just natural instinct. He's going to grab a hold of you around the waist or around the chest and try to take you down. And it was there, and that's what happened. Um, and he was able to work his position and work on that arm of Luke's and get the submission at 2 minutes and 37 seconds. To for me, to Luke Wilson, we definitely. I mean, it goes without saying, we appreciate the things that you and your family do for our promotion. I think everybody in his family works a position in the promotion, and we know that you're going to continue to do that as a referee because you're really really good at that. And I think got a big future in that as he continues. But thank you for the three fights that you did with us, and you made them memorable. For Finn Martin though, definitely excited to hear when he had his moment on the mic that he appreciated that Gamma belt, but it's not all he wants. He wants the Aries one too. So at what do we got now? 4-0 now. Tim,
Yeah, 4-0, I think. Yeah, 4-0.
4-0.
Mhm.
How do you say no? So we'll try to. I'm sure we'll sit down and look at that and see timing wise when that can happen. Who would the opponent be? Does there need to be an eliminator between two other people? First we'll check all that out. But I can't for the life of me see why the answer would be no to 4-0 Finn Martin in a weight class that um, that it's hard for us to find champions anymore. 185 is the hot weight class now. So what I mean, what did you think about this fight?
And I thought the Finn looked great. I mean, he's a guy that we knew from the beginning, just when we first started seeing him compete, that he was had the physicality, has the skills, still has the youth, just very much lots of those intangibles and those tools that you look for at 205 is, as you mentioned, it's a bit of a shallow division. So you can, the cream kind of rises to the top pretty quick there. uh, Top of my head, Malik Jackson seems like the obvious guy as far as looking at the 205s that we've had fight for us over the last couple of years. 2-0 with us at this point, 3-0 overall. That looks like a guy that could present potentially the physicality that we have yet to see Finn face, as far as someone that has got the youth and physicality to maybe match it, maybe not, who knows. But I think that would be a hell of a fight. I'll echo your sentiments. Luke Wilson, one of my favorite guys to work with. Just him and his family help us so much on so many different levels of all the shows. So thank you, Luke, for doing your fights, your three bouts with us, and can't wait to continue moving forward and watching you develop and become one of the best referees in the area.
Yeah, absolutely. Second title fight of the night was a vacant title. It was in the welterweight division, and it saw Anson Phillips from Rowan Wrestling Academy come in to Chattanooga and take down and defeat Lucas Cox. Round one, standing guillotine at 2 minutes and 15 seconds. Anson Phillips was involved in the that Rowan and Lawrenceburg rivalry coming off the I guess it was what, April show, and
Mhm.
this was supposed to be Phillips versus Jankowski. Jankowski had to pull with medical issues. Lucas Cox, uh, happily jumped in there and said, "Let me have some of that." And uh, honestly, Tim, I was kind of surprised at this fight.
Yeah.
Really surprised at the way it ended. We've seen Lucas Cox. hell, his debut was just a brutal war. I mean, it was a back and forth against another debut at the
Yeah.
time from Nashville MMA, JT Van Meter, and those two guys just into pure exhaustion, uh, went at each other, and so it was just kind of surprising to me to watch the fight end by standing guillotine.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if I can really articulate why it surprised me. It just I was surprised. It was one of those you just kind of turn your head and go, "Huh, I didn't see that coming."
Yeah.
Um, but again, Lucas Cox has been out for a while. He's been doing things overseas, and has been focusing on a lot of things. This was his jump back in there, and I'm sure we'll see him back again. I know we will because that's just how that's how he. It's his
Yeah.
character. It's how he lives. I mean, he's going to take his lumps and he's going to come back, and he's with a good gym. So I have no doubt we'll see him again. Anson Phillips, on the other hand, what is a kind of a mystery about him? He's wanted to go to 155, but he wanted to keep this fight because first it was because it was Jankowski, and he wanted to do that, and that was the weight that he needed to meet him at. Then when Jankowski fell out, Phillips wanted to keep a title fight because that's what it was, and so. But I think his true goal is to go to lightweight. So you have to, for us, we wonder, is he going to defend this belt? But on the flip side we're getting ready to talk about a lightweight amateur title. Um, next that I think that title is now interested in Anson Phillips in some way, shape, or form in one weight class or another. So I don't know, Tim. How do you see this one playing out?
I think that that's exactly how it should play. I will just, I guess we'll just kind of tie these in together. You want to, because
Yeah,
they
yeah.
kind of just go together. If you want to go ahead and just give the
Yeah,
results
go
on
ahead.
one,
So,
right?
like we were talking about, the 155 title was our next fight, and that was Dustin Berry and Zay Martin. And Dustin Berry, we were talking earlier about motivated Austin Sauls. I don't think I've seen an unmotivated Dustin Berry, but his motivation has just carried over since he's moved back in the area. Over the last two shows, the last two fights, he said what he wanted to do and what his plan was. And Jesus Christ, he's like there's no pulling over at the gas station. He's going down the interstate 100 miles an hour to get from point A to point B, and he had a purpose, Saturday night, and it showed with a 2 minute and 24-second TKO of Zay Martin. Um, uh, Everything the kid said he was going to do, he did. He said, "I'm going to sell tickets." He did. He said, "I'm going to bring a crowd." He did. "I'm going to show you I've got support," and he does. And then I'm going to win your belt. He told us that at the Joe months ago. Uh, Give me the title shot. I'm winning your belt, and he did that too. The interesting part, like you were saying, tying these two together, is that Dustin Berry wants some Anson Phillips, and
Yeah.
he says he's willing to go up if he's got to. I don't really see the sense in going up because I don't think that's normally where Dustin Berry is going to need to be anyway. Um, and since the fact that we know that Anson wants to go down, so I don't know about you, but I think this has got the perfect scenario to do a meet in the middle, my belt against your belt. We meet right there in the middle of 55 and 70, and winner take all.
Yeah, man. I think you're right. From the first off, congrats to both men. Congratulations to very good wins over very tough opponents. I will agree that I'm not necessarily saying I'm surprised that Anson won. I am surprised that Anson managed to get a first round standing guillotine win over Lucas Cox. That is what surprises me the most. Um, However, the fact that he won, he's done nothing prior to make us think that he isn't going to win, right? So it's
No,
always
no.
done
And
his win. So
for the record, my surprise was, like you said, wasn't that he won the fight. It was
yeah,
just the method.
mm,
Not submission, just standing guillotine for some reason. Just kind of was
yeah,
like, no, because usually, I
no,
mean, those are ones nowadays that people, they can get their arm in, they can get the gun, and they get out. I was
mm.
just surprised at that. But go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, likewise. So, Barry showed just, I've been bragging on the kid now for a couple months. I think he, in my opinion, is kind of that next thing rising up out of Agogi, and he's mentioned he wants to go pro. He's mentioned he wants Anson Phillips. There was talk about doing him and Anson Phillips for the 155 title before we had made the Phillips and Jankowski fight. And so, I say we get both of these title defenses out of the way at the same time. We'll count it as the defense for both. Let's meet in the middle at 162, and we'll put both those straps up. Winner takes both belts. And I don't exactly know Anson's plans past that, but I would imagine that would be the stepping off point for Dustin Berry to go pro, and maybe for Anson as well, because at that point that would be 5-0 for him, and with two very solid wins if he were to get it. So, I think that would be the best path to get to where everybody's trying to go.
Yeah, and I hate being the guy that pushes things, but um, a really good date sounds to me like September 23rd. But
Yeah,
who knows if that might be too soon for him? I don't know. But
I don't think either
sounds
guy took any damage.
sounds like a good time to me. But that'll take us to our main event of the evening. This was the one everybody was waiting for. It was the first bout announced for this card. It had all the build up. It had all the time for people to get invested in it. And once again, it was a Nashville MMA Agogi showdown in the cage. And once again, it was Andrew Stewart uh, from Nashville MMA facing someone from Agogi. He'd won his title in this very building back in April against Josh Booker, and his first title defense. At the end of that title win, Zane Burton entered the cage. I think for the most part for a call out from Andrew Stewart. But Zane obliged and crawled up in there and shook his hand and said, "Let's do it." And they did it. And it was everything we thought it was going to be from a crowd participation standpoint. Both had great followings there. Andrew Stewart rolls deep, um, had us all on edge after their um, April celebration. Had us all on edge this time. I had to reposition my seat and go sit over there by them just to make sure things were, uh, you know, kosher on the other side of the cage. But we went all 5 rounds. Andrew Stewart by unanimous decision on all 3 judges' scorecards. I don't think that was in question, whatsoever. He was able to get the takedowns, work top position for most of the bout. Zane a few times was able to get up and looked good getting up from some of those takedowns, but as the fight rolled on, it just kept getting harder and harder for him to get an advantageous position. Uh, so Andrew Stewart still undefeated. Zane Burton still with a really good amateur record right now, and I know this isn't the end for him. But kind of the sky's the limit right now for our middleweight champion. Trying to decide what's going to happen next with him. Is he going to go pro? Is he going to do one more amateur fight? Those are things that we're waiting to hear from him and his coaching staff specifically. As far as one thing that was odd to me in this fight, and that was just the fifth and final round for me. Um, Zane, was able to keep himself off of the canvas in this round and had control up against the fence. But I was just kind of, there was obviously no doubt, and he's got a very well educated corner. There was no doubt that he was down 4 rounds to nothing. Um, I was just real surprised with holding position against the cage for the fifth round and not just stepping back, breaking away, and trying to, you know, in this fight with a strike. Wasn't really trying to take down. I was just holding position against the cage. And, there's obviously no way you're going to win the match 4 rounds down, just holding position and looking for an ankle pick. I would have liked to have seen him just go balls to the wall and break off and swing for the fences and see what happens. You had nothing to lose at that point. But again, that's one of those things that it is easy for us to sit there and say that because we're not the ones that just fought for 20 minutes or 24 minutes at that time
Mm.
and having to, pull something out deep. So, Tim, I mean, the fight delivered.
Yeah, no doubt. I think there's not much more I can add to that. I think that we saw from Andrew Stewart, the ability to go a good hard 5 rounds. Didn't seem to be too worse to wear afterward, as far as suck and wind or anything like that. Showed good wrestling, takedowns of his own. Um, showed good striking. He landed some really solid shots first round that were about right on the button. And so I think that he showed, a very good, well-rounded game at this point. Is especially from we know he's got the power. We know he can wrestle now against a guy that's a solid wrestler. He showed that he's got the cardio to go 15 minutes. Checking all the boxes, man, at this point. So it'd be interesting to see what comes next. We've talked about in the past. The call out has been made by Colin Superman Robinson up in Massachusetts. So we'll see if that's a fight that intrigues Stewart to defend that strap one more time, or if he decides he's going to go on, to the pro ranks or what have you. I'm assuming something will be decided by the end of the year here as to what's gonna happen with him next. As for Zane, it's a guy now he's got 7 amateur fights, 5-2, solid record. He's fought stiff competition, around the region. Not exactly sure what he will do next. I'll be curious to see what he does next. To tell you the truth, I thought that I will echo your sentiment about that last round. That was a bit the head scratcher. Just the I like to have seen more urgency, kind of knowing where he was, on the scorecards, and that was certainly being conveyed to him by most anyone within earshot there. So just interesting that we didn't see that kind of go gung ho, go for it, approach there in the 5th round. So, and as you said, it's easy for us to say that sitting on this side of the camera and not in there getting our ass whipped. So you never know. Although I will say, if it, Zane's a guy that I would peg as having professional aspirations in this game. That is something that they're going to have to look at. Is just that in fight kind of decision making. That's one of the last things they say that kind of clicks into place before you're kind of ready to go pro, and you can think very clearly in there and execute without it being such a crazy, whirlwind.
Um, Tim, it's about to happen again this weekend.
Yeah, we
We're
probably went longer than we should have,
yeah,
but at the same time, wanted to make sure we give credit where it's due.
yeah.
And there were so many of these fights here that will have some bearing, I think, on just the scene moving forward, so I'm glad we're able to hash it out. We won't take anybody the rest of anybody's time though, guys. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like it, hit the notification bell. You'll get notified whenever we post new content. There's going to be new content coming out like tomorrow. We're getting ready to record with our guy Cody Saftig to get ready to look at this underground card coming up this Saturday. Do you have any parting words before we wrap it up here and get on another one?
No, like I was saying, it's time to do it again. If we can't even, post up some pictures, throw a recap video up, and then for the last 48 hours, we've been doing nothing but just trying to knock out everything to put on another show. And just at this point now, we're recording. It's in 3 days, 2 days to a weigh-in, and 3 days to a fight show. So no, absolutely nothing to say, because I'm gonna have to save some for the next show and the one after that and that recap. And then guess what? We're gonna do another preview show next week again. So I'll save it for that.
Nice. Hey, thanks for joining us, guys. For Jeff Hobbs, this is Tim Loy. We appreciate you tuning in for another edition of the 0 Hour. We'll see you next time.